Here are 10 books in my stack of shame. Hi, my name is Talia, and welcome back to my channel. Before we get started, I have to say thank you. So this past week, I became eligible and was accepted into the YouTube Partner Program. For those who don't know what that is basically the program that allows you to monetize your YouTube. Okay, so you're going to start seeing ads on these videos, on shorts, etc. And I'm going to make a little bit of money. So I have to say thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. I forgot what the follower threshold for the partner program is, but I know you have to have at least 3,000 watch hours to be eligible. And baby, we did it. So I want to say thank you for tuning in, although I have not been the most consistent. I went into 2025 wanting to, pivot to YT, as someone who was a plaintiff in the landmark TikTok ban lawsuit. Even I knew that I had to pivot and I could not put all my eggs in the TikTok basket. So I went into 2025 wanting to start YouTube, and I did that in January, and we were pretty consistent for like the first 2-ish months. And then my father got sick. I've talked about it in the newsletter. I talked about it briefly in yesterday's video on TikTok. Consistency was just not something I could do on YouTube and still can't really do. I think the best I can do right now is 1 video a week, but it was the last thing in, first thing out for me as a content creator. So it's just something I could not devote the time I wanted to devote to it, but we still got accepted into the program within the first 6 months. So thank you. So today's video is another book video, and I want to talk about my stack of shame. What is a stack of shame? So I've seen this trend go around on Book Talk. I've seen some of my mutuals do this trend, and I'm like, I want to do this trend because I definitely have a stack of shame. I definitely have a collection of books that I want to read that I have not read, that if some people heard I have not read them, they would be like, girl, you haven't read this? So this is very much a brave, courageous thing that I'm doing right now. I'm very much assuming that this is a safe space for me to share the books that I should have already read that I have not read. Some of y'all are going to be like, I can't believe you haven't read this. Honestly, there are too many books, not enough time. Every day it's a new release. And I read indie mostly. So every day there is a new release. Every day you're being sent an arc. There's too many books, not enough time. It's just one person with 3 jobs, right? I got my day job, this job, I'm writing my first novel. There's no time. So some of the, classics, some of the greatest hits, I have not read them yet. And you're going to let me know if you haven't read these either. And I also want to know what books are in your stack of shame, books that you feel like you should have already read, and people will be shocked to hear that you have not read. All of these are Black indie romance. That's like 90% of what I read. Titles and authors are listed in the caption. First book is Snow King Catches His Snowflake by A.E. Valdez. This is book 1 of 3 in the 3 King Billionaire series. So I love me some A.E. Valdez. A.E. Valdez was actually one of the first authors I read when I got into Black indie romance. So we're talking about 2 years ago. I read A Worthy Love first, and then I went back in the Rise and Fall series. This next series, 3 King Billionaires, I haven't gotten into it just because I know A.E. Valdez likes to write books on the longer side. We're talking 400, 500, 600 pages. Although this first book in the series is like 250 pages, the other 2 books in this series are like 400 or 500 pages. And I'm like, girl. And y'all know I primarily listen to audiobooks, and then I do ebook reading. I don't read physical books, right? So I was just hoping that because she did an audiobook rollout for her first series, Rise and Fall, she would eventually do an audiobook rollout for 3 King Billionaires. And lo and behold, this past Tuesday, the audiobook for Snow King Catches His Snowflake dropped exclusively on Audible, and I pre-ordered it. It's already in my library. I actually want to get to it this week, but everyone has talked about 3 Kings. And baby, I am now going to be in the number when I start. Next book is And Then Life Was Beautiful by Asia Monique. This is book 1 of 2 in the Hanson Family series. Love Asia Monique, okay? One of the first series I really committed to do reading when I got back into reading was the Mafia Misfits series. And this is a series of Black, multiracial, but primarily Black mafia families. So like Black mixed with Irish, Black mixed with Polish, Black mixed with Italian. I listened to the audiobook rollout of that. If anything, the 7th book in this series dropped maybe last month. I'm waiting for the audiobook. But yeah, everyone talks about And Then Life Was Beautiful. Everybody talks about how it's a 5-star read. It's one of their favorite books. And I'm like, I want to get in the number. And this book is easily accessible. I've seen it in my Libby through my library. You know, what's available on Libby varies from library to library. I live in one of the blackest counties in America, so we have a lot of like Black indie romance available to us on Libby. I also have the audiobook. I purchased it on Audible and I've had it for some while now. Why haven't I gotten into this yet? Next book is Filth Kings. This is book 1 in Filth Kings by Authoress Masterpiece. So I got into Authoress Masterpiece last year and I want to say Filth Kings came out this year and everybody loves it. It's a dark romance. Everybody has spoken so highly of this series by Authoress Masterpiece. And I think for me at the time when it came out, it was just one of those things. It's like, there's no audiobook. I cannot prioritize this. Like one of the quickest ways for me to not read a book or not read it immediately is if there's no audiobook. By miracle, the audiobook for book 1 drops in July. Next book is Keep You to Myself by Briann Danae. This is book 1 of 2 in Unorthodox Love. Y'all know I love Briann Danae. I talk about erotic love language. She's currently doing an audiobook rollout of that entire novella series. I've told you that Here With You Forever is one of my favorite reads of 2024. The Evermore series in general is one of my favorite book series ever. I am ready for book 4, but I have not read Keep You to Myself. So there is an audiobook. However, I don't think I like one of the narrators. One of the narrators is like one of my least favorite narrators, and it is what it is. So I can push through the audiobook because I have time to listen to it. I may not have time to read it. So I think I'm going to just have to, stomach listening to the audiobook just to say that I've read it, because the main characters in this story have appeared in other books in the Briann Danae like literary universe. So I am familiar with Sanovi and what's the other one's name? I'm familiar with them. Next book is Ledge by Gray Huffington. This is book 1 in the Domino Effect. So y'all know I love the Eisenberg Effect. You know I love The Gray List. I cannot wait for Rome to come out in July, by the way. And I've read 2 books in Berkeley Bred. So the fact that I just totally skipped over the Domino Effect. What happened? I don't know. Gray Huffington releases pretty regularly. So I think by the time, it was Domino Effect time, she was already getting into Berkeley Bred and The Gray List. And I just haven't. And the way that Gray Huffington's universe is set up is that all of these people are in the same world. So there's been allusions to Ledge and Law and their partners in Berkeley Bred in The Gray List. But yeah, there's audiobooks for this, and I don't know if I love the narrators, but I think I could get through it. Next book is Mason Neiman. This is book 1 in the Mason Neiman series by Jatoria C. So 1, never read Jatoria C, but I've heard about Mason in recent months. So maybe last month I did a filter on TikTok ranking popular Black romance, urban romance titles, and Mason Neiman was one of those books, and I ranked it low because I'm like, I haven't read the book. I can't rank it high. I haven't read it. And everyone was in the comments talking about, girl, you haven't read Mason Neiman? And one of the books I did read in that ranking was Applying Pressure by Siobhan Latrice. And I've gone on record on here, on every platform, Ocean is crazier than a soup sandwich. Ocean doesn't even need to be checked into a behavioral mental health facility. He needs to be checked into a sanitarium. He needs to be bound up. He needs to be put in a padded room. Okay, there is no rehabilitation for someone like Ocean. And y'all are telling me Mason is crazier than Ocean. Y'all are saying Mason is equally, if not more crazy than Ocean. And I don't know if I want to read that. I don't know if I want to read that. Is there an audiobook for this? I don't think so. So I would have to do a physical read. But baby, the first indication that he is crazier than Ocean, I might have to DNF. Next book is Quasim, or is it Quasim? I'm going to say Quasim. This is book 1 in the Inferno Gods, season 4 by Jahquel J. Currently, right now, in this moment, I'm recording this video on June 23rd. The girls are waiting for Quasim 3. And I haven't even gotten to book 1. Baby, I haven't even gotten into Capri yet. I'm still listening to Capadonna 3.5. So I am very behind on this entire universe because I'm choosing to wait for the audiobooks. So Capri ain't even out yet on audio. And Quasim is not going to be out on audio until like late September. So I will be in the number. The pre-order is already up on Audible. It's an Audible exclusive. But baby, I ain't even done with Capadonna yet. Next book is Saint. This is book 1 in Soul Ties by Miss Candice. I have attempted to get into this series. However, the audiobook. So one of my favorite narrators is Winston James. Y'all know this. I don't want to be mean. I don't want to be mean. And you know I love this man as a narrator. And I don't think this has any bearing on the book, but I do think the audiobook is something that I don't think I'll be able to get into. If I start reading Soul Ties, I'm going to have to do it physically. So our MMC in Soul Ties, I want to say is Haitian, and he is based in South Florida. For those who don't know, I am also Haitian. I was born and raised in New York, so I'm first gen Haitian American, but I have enough familiarity with Haitians and how they sound, how they speak. And from my understanding, the MMC, he is Haitian. He lives in South Florida. He was born in Haiti, but he came to the States when he was young and he settled in South Florida, so like Miami. I know how a Haitian man who came to the States when he was young and settled in South Florida sounds. There is a way that someone who comes to the States very young, like in their teenage years, they settle in Miami. I know how that type of Haitian sounds. And Winston just doesn't, he just can't execute that accent in like a believable way. It's not a good accent. And I can't get over that. So it's going to have to be a physical read for me. I hope that wasn't harsh. Next book is On Us by Nina. This is book 1 in On Us. So in that same like Black romance filter I did on TikTok that I was telling y'all about, On Us was also part of that ranking, and I ranked it low because I'm like, I haven't read On Us. And everyone's like, this is blasphemy. What do you mean you haven't read On Us? I'm not even going to watch the rest of this video. It's crazy how you haven't even read this. I'm not going to listen to anything you say because you didn't read this. And I'm like, oh. So apparently On Us is one of the greatest books y'all have ever read. In that video, I also talked about doing a list of what to read after you read Demon's Dream, because you're oftentimes in a slump after Demon's Dream. And people are like, On Us is better than Demon's Dream. Y'all love On Us. I'm actually currently reading, or I started reading the book that precedes it. So kind of like the prequel, which is French Street Porter, which kind of gives us Lake's backstory. I've started reading that physical. But yeah, I got to get on Us because y'all are saying this is better than any book you've ever read. Last but not least is Gold by Sarifini. So I want to say this is a lesser known title, but I've seen the girlies talk about it on Book Talk. And honestly, based on what they've been saying, I think this is one of the next great cult books in Black indie romance. Maybe last year the author reached out to me and she's like, hey, my name is Sarifini. I just wrote this book called Gold. Can I send you a copy? And I'm like, sure, send me a copy. Why not? Baby, I get the book 763 pages. Okay, this is as long as Demon's Dream. And I don't think there's any audiobook on the horizon. So like I have to be really dedicated to sit down with this. I have to read this when I'm not busy. And honestly, am I ever not busy anyway? anymore. I really wanted to go into summer, like trying to read gold in like maybe July or August. Baby, those months are turning out to be busy AF. But people say this is so good. Like the handful of book talk girlies, Black book talk girlies who've talked about this book, who I trust, have told me that this is a page turner. The girls have said this. And you know what the girls have also said about this? They said that, you know how like in all the other books we read, the outfits are atrocious? Not with gold. Not with gold. Our FMC is a fashion girl. I have a feeling that once more girls read this book, it's going to start having like a cult-like following. This is going to be a part of the Black indie romance zeitgeist as soon as more people get on it. So yeah, that's my stack of shame. That's just a sample of my stack of shame. See you for the next one. Bye.